Welcome to the ultimate strategy session. Think of me as your film director, and today we are going to script, direct, and produce your blockbuster answer for the Cambridge mathematics exams. We're talking scene by scene, building a mathematical masterpiece. We are going to cut the filler, and we are going to keep the action strictly focused on what actually gets you marks. Today's highly focused explainer is all about decoding the playbook for mastering substitution questions. Now, to really set the scene, I want you to imagine two different students walking into the exam hall to tackle a complex algebra paper. Let's call them Alex and Sam. Alex is our overthinker. Alex overloads every single answer with raw mathematical facts, writing down every single formula they have ever memorized but completely ignores the analytical steps connecting them. It's like a movie with all special effects and absolutely zero plot. Sam, on the other hand, is our rusher. Sam races through the paper, completely missing the specific command word requirements of the question. Sam sees the word solve and just starts throwing numbers at the page without identifying the structure. Both of them are leaving massive amounts of marks on the table. Whether you are sitting the 0606, the 0580, the 4024, or even the 4037 and 4040, the mistakes are exactly the same. Today, we are going to build your ideal answer step by step. We are focusing entirely on exactly what the examiners want to see when you are asked to identify the appropriate algebraic or calculus-based substitution. Let's get to work. Look at this number, 15. Identifying the appropriate substitution accounts for approximately 15% of your total examination marks in these papers. I really want you to think about that for a second. In the Cambridge syllabus, 15% is not just a nice little bonus. It is often the literal difference between jumping up 1, 2, or even 3 entirely different grade boundaries. It is a massive chunk of your final score, essentially the climax of your exam paper. And yet, despite its heavy weighting, it is an area where examiners report seeing the exact same unforced errors year after year from students who actually know the math but fail the execution. We are going to make sure you capture every single one of those percentage points. We are going to do this by understanding the underlying logic the exam board is testing, rather than just blindly hoping we guess the right variable. This is your highest stakes opportunity on the entire paper, and we are treating it with the respect it deserves. Here is our production schedule for today, mapping out a direct, step-by-step route into the examiner's mind so you can secure every possible mark. First, we'll dive deeper into the 15% advantage and why this specific topic is so critical. Second, we'll cover the core principles of objective mastery. Third, we are going to reveal the exact procedural framework you need. This is where we bring in some serious structural secrets. Fourth, we'll talk about the hidden currency of the Cambridge exam, the method mark strategy. Fifth, we'll uncover the top 3 examiner traps that catch out students like Alex and Sam. And finally, we will lock down the ultimate problem-solving cycle: deconstruct, solve, and evaluate. This is your roadmap to top marks. Let's start right at the beginning with Section 1. We are looking at the 15% advantage and defining exactly why the stakes are so incredibly high here. This isn't just about finding X. It's about proving you understand the language of mathematics. Now, you might be wondering, why is this so difficult? The senior examiner explicitly notes that confusing key terminology is the very first place students stumble and lose those crucial early marks. Remember Sam, the student who rushes? Sam sees a mathematical term, assumes it means one generic thing, and goes down a completely incorrect algebraic rabbit hole. The distinction between key terminology is incredibly hard for students because they often try to memorize definitions in total isolation, rather than understanding how they relate to the underlying mathematical operations. It's like trying to act in a scene without reading the rest of the script. When you misinterpret a command word, like confusing evaluate with simplify or exact value with a decimal approximation, your entire substitution strategy fails before you have even written down your first equation. You are essentially answering a question the examiner never actually asked. Moving right along to Section 2, Core Principles and Objective Mastery. This is where we transition from understanding the problem to revealing the actual strategy top-tier candidates use. The absolute crucial point here is this exact mandate straight from Cambridge. They aren't just looking for memorized formulas. They are looking for a connected, conceptual understanding that adapts to completely new, unfamiliar contexts. This is exactly where Alex, our student who just memorizes raw facts and equations, goes entirely off track. If you only know how to perform a substitution in one highly specific, rehearsed textbook context, what happens when the exam throws a complex, multi-layered curveball? You freeze. The exam board explicitly states that top-performing students exhibit a connected understanding. They want to see that you can take the foundational principle of substitution and apply it to a deeply unfamiliar mathematical landscape. Before we continue, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE, to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon right now. Okay, so how do we actually demonstrate this conceptual understanding? We have to look at the assessment objectives. To achieve true mastery, your answers must hit these distinct cognitive domains, and they do this by relying entirely on systematic analysis and solid evidence-based reasoning. I want to introduce you to a framework you might know from essay writing, but it applies beautifully to high-level math, the Peel framework. Point, evidence, explanation, link. First, your point targets knowledge and understanding. You explicitly state the substitution you are making, like letting u equal x squared. Second, evidence. You demonstrate application by carefully plugging that substitution into the complex equation. Third is explanation. You execute your systematic analysis, showing every single step of solving that new, simpler equation. And finally, link. You utilize evidence-based reasoning to substitute back to the original variable and link your final answer to the specific constraints of the question. If you just jump straight to the final answer, bypassing this structured Peel approach, you completely skip the cognitive domains the examiner is literally mandated to grade you on. This naturally leads us directly into Section 3, the procedural framework. This is where the real transformation happens. We are going to take the chaotic answers of Alex and Sam and turn them into a pristine, structured blueprint. Let's look at the 5-step technical methodology you must use every single time you encounter a complex substitution problem. Step 1, deconstruct the question, line by line, to deeply understand the constraints. Are there limits? Is it a specific domain? Step 2, extract the relevant data. Pull out the exact variables you actually need, filtering out the noise. Step 3, select your analytical framework. Decide which mathematical rule or identity perfectly applies here. Step 4, execute with crystal clear notation. Do not make the examiner hunt for your working out. And step 5, present the final conclusion with the correct mathematical terminology. Think of this as a highly structured logical proof. For instance, if you're given a tricky substitution problem, you don't just guess. You extract the core trend, apply your framework, and present it clearly. If Alex and Sam were rewriting their answers right now using this, you'd see Alex's chaotic mess of formulas become streamlined, and Sam's rushed guesses slow down into a clear, methodical process. The red pen marks of failure transform into the green check marks of success. Never ever forget that presentation in advanced mathematics is a professional skill. Strict conventions like proper headings, correct terminology, appropriate formats, and clear annotations are absolutely required. It sounds basic, almost too simple, but failing to use appropriate formats is literally one of the fastest ways to lose marks unnecessarily. When the syllabus mentions practical application, it specifically highlights developing these exact professional skills. Clear annotation proves to the examiner that you are in total control of your systematic analysis. You are the director of this answer. If your page is a messy scattergraph of disjointed numbers and scribbles in the margins, you are failing the core presentation convention requirement, and you will bleed marks. Stop scrolling. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE, to excel in your Cambridge examinations. We've helped thousands of students improve by 2-3 grade boundaries. Join them right now by subscribing to acetheexams_IGCS and turn on all notifications so you never miss our weekly exam strategy sessions. Welcome back. Let's move into Section 4, the method mark strategy. This right here is the hidden currency of the Cambridge exam. This scoring framework proves that you are actively rewarded for the logic of your process, making your step-by-step methodology absolutely critical. The method mark strategy is a literal safety net built directly into the grading rubric by the examiners themselves. Listen closely. Even if you make a tiny arithmetic error right at the very end, maybe you add instead of subtract under intense exam pressure, if your procedural process and analytical reasoning are clearly annotated using that framework we discussed, you still get the bulk of the marks. This is exactly why Sam's strategy of rushing and just writing down a final unannotated answer is a terrible, terrible idea. If Sam gets the final number wrong, it's 0 marks. If you show the method but get the number wrong, you might get 3 out of 4 marks. You are robbing yourself of guaranteed method marks if you don't show your working out clearly. Now we are entering our interactive workshop phase. Imagine you have a complex data table or a really tricky multi-part function right in front of you. You have a 60-second mental countdown. How do you attack it? When applying the method mark strategy to complex data interpretation, you must flawlessly navigate 3 requirements. First is extraction. Can you rapidly scan and pull the exact right data point or variable from the text? Second is interpretation. Can you analyze the relationship between the variable you extracted and the equation you are substituting it into?
And finally, conclusion, drawing evidence-based findings that solve the specific prompt. Navigating this three-step process means you are essentially securing method marks for yourself at every single stage of the problem. If you extract correctly, mark. If you interpret correctly, mark. It builds your score scene by scene.
Okay, let's dive into Section 5, where we reveal the top mistakes straight from the principal examiner reports. These are the traps designed to catch out candidates who aren't paying attention. Let's see if you can spot the flaws. These are the top 3 unforced errors students make year after year, throwing away easy marks despite fully knowing the underlying math. Trap number 1, forgetting to include the proper format for the requested solution. Did they ask for coordinates, a vector, 3 significant figures? Trap number 2, failing to double-check that format and presentation before moving on to the next question. And trap number 3, which is by far the most detrimental, providing answers that are not specific to the given context. Let's do a quick find the flaw challenge mentally. If a student writes down a brilliant quadratic substitution, solves it perfectly to find that time equals -5 seconds, and circles it as their final answer, what's the flaw? The flaw is context. Time cannot be negative in this scenario. The math was right, but the lack of context awareness loses the final marks.
And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. We're doing a speed writing mental check here. Examiners will heavily penalize generic responses, but they will consistently reward candidates who relentlessly tie their analysis back to the unique scenario. This is the exact difference between Alex, who gives a generic textbook dump of formulas, and a top-scoring candidate. A top-tier response doesn't just blindly substitute the number. It mathematically justifies why that substitution resolves the equation within the provided parameters. When you link your analytical point directly to the specific scenario, saying, for example, we reject the negative root because length must be positive, you are clearly demonstrating that connected, conceptual understanding Cambridge is desperately searching for. To ensure you never fall into these formatting traps under the intense pressure of a ticking exam clock, I highly recommend creating your own memory hack right now using the key terminology. Whether it is a quick acronym for the procedural steps or adapting the Peel framework, point, evidence, explanation, link to your math answers, having a mnemonic is a game changer. Doing this ensures that during the exam, your brain goes on autopilot. It helps you seamlessly output the exact format the examiner's grading rubric requires without second-guessing yourself or freezing up when the panic sets in. We have reached our final section. Section 6, Deconstruct, Solve, Evaluate. This is where we bring everything together into the ultimate exam defense cycle, our final system for absolute success. Think of this as your final cheat sheet recap, a progress bar reaching 100% mark potential. This 3-step problem-solving cycle is the gold standard for structuring an answer that guarantees maximum marks. First, you deconstruct. You decode the command words, identify the given mathematical information, recognize the constraints, and break the problem down into logical, bite-sized steps. Second, you solve systematically, using the framework we discussed. And a massive part of solving is actively checking for reasonableness. Does this substituted value actually make mathematical sense in the real-world context of the problem? Finally, you evaluate, making justified conclusions based purely on your calculated findings. Top-scoring candidates execute that final evaluation step by rigorously questioning assumptions and considering alternative mathematical interpretations. Have you noted any specific assumptions made during your substitution? Have you assessed how a different interval or limit might affect the final conclusion? Evaluating the quality of your own evidence right there on the page elevates your answer from a standard passing grade to absolute excellence. It proves to the examiner that you are thinking critically like a true mathematician, not just acting as a human calculator. Listen, students who implement these mathematics strategies see an average improvement of 2 grade boundaries, but only if they practice consistently with our weekly videos. Keep this core question in mind as you practice, because conquering that massive 15% margin requires you to view the paper exactly as the examiner does. Every step, every annotation, and every substitution must be a deliberate, directed showcase of your analytical logic. Here's your final reminder. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCS to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Subscribe right now to @acetheexams_IGCS and click that bell. Don't let another exam pass you by. When facing your next substitution question, will you be like Sam, just blindly hunting for a number to plug in? Or will you execute a bulletproof strategy to prove your conceptual mastery? Drop a comment below with your target grade for mathematics and the biggest challenge you're facing. Our team responds to every comment. Like and share this video with a study partner. Ace the Exams, your Cambridge success starts here.